welcome the Holy Spirit into this place. We know that the Holy Spirit actually met us in this place. Was welcoming us into this space. Was here before we got here. 25 years. I haven't been around for all of those 25, but I know some of you have. We have the slide, J-Lo. I guess people are making their way in. I don't see anybody yet commented, but I guess folks are making their way in. Somebody's here. Can't see who it is, but greetings to you. Welcome. Grand rising to you as well. Patrice Green, greetings to you. Donna, good morning to you. Anthony and Mama Bert. Good to have everybody in the space. I don't even know how many people are here this morning. It's not showing on the screen, but we welcome everybody into this sacred space where we come together collectively, having done our own individual work to encourage and fellowship with each other, to be together, to share good vibes, support one another with love. Greetings, Dr. Wilson. Good morning to you. A lot of people are showing up as Facebook user. I guess they're coming in from the group. You have to actually give permission for your name to actually show up if you're in the group. Monique, good morning. Angel Fran. Hello, Angel Fran. Joe Mann, good morning to you, my brother. Glad to have everybody here who is here. Glad to have everybody in the space who's in the space. Sonia Terry, good morning to you. Peace and many blessings to you. If I had a better singing voice, I'd sing this. Takes me back in the day. Good morning, Rev. Happy anniversary. It's not only TLC's anniversary, but it's Rev's anniversary too. So happy anniversary, TLC, and happy anniversary, Rev. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get ready to get started with the announcements as everybody's continuing to gradually roll in. Rhonda Jackson's greetings to you, grand rising to you. So Mondays, Soak Sundays with Danny Stillwell. That's noon every Monday. TRC prayer line is 712-775-8968. The passcode is 750844. I'm in Soak in the Spirit. And then on Tuesday, we have the class, The Laws of the Spirit, on Zoom. Dan Millman's book. The Zoom ID for that one is 858-76-975468. Zoom passcode 77. Let's try that again. There's no 7 in the Zoom passcode. 295-581. 295-581. And it's been going on. It's been going on for a minute, but you can still jump in where you are and be able to take advantage of it. The laws of the Spirit. And then this coming Friday, magic is happening. An intimate conversation, our legacy, friendship, sisterhood, and love. I'm not a sister, but I still plan on being there. So all the brothers show up too. You'll need to get your tickets at the TLC website. The event is Friday from 8 to 10 Eastern. The tickets are $50. You can only register at transforminglovecommunity.com. So be sure to make your way to the TLC website, your transforminglovecommunity.com. And if you haven't gotten your tickets already, please get your tickets. That's going to be Rev and Ayanla. So I'm sure that's going to be an awesome event. And we'll look to see everybody there for that. And this month, our theme is Oh, Taste and See. Starting to feel my help coming on a little bit. Oh, taste and see. Rev was last week. She'll be back next week closing it out. The good Reverend Dr. Spencer Murray was here, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Sounds right. Yeah, 2 weeks ago on the 6th. And then I'm here today dealing with our topic for today. And along those lines, greetings, by the way, to everybody else who's come in. Reverend Linnell, good to see you. Tia Littlejohn, Michelle Green, Nicole, Reverend Bonnie, good to see you all. And we're continuing to pray for Reverend Bonnie and her family and the transition of Pastor Porkchop, 4-legged family member. You know that can be a difficult one to deal with. And so I'm going to ask that if we can just take a moment and just enter into the sacred space of the presence of God, not that God's presence was not already here, but allow us to bring our consciousness into the sacred presence of God. And in this space, I'm going to ask that we all just take a moment and just breathe into our hearts a feeling of love. And to breathe out love. And to breathe in peace. And to breathe out peace. To breathe in light. And on the exhalation, letting that light expand in our body temples. Breathing in new and righteous perspective. Jesus said, if your eye is single, if your eye is whole, if you're seeing things rightly, your whole body will be filled with light. And as we breathe in, oh God, your love, your peace, your insight, your light, your spirit, we give great thanks for this opportunity to come and be at this place called Transforming Love Community. It's a beautiful thing to have a tribe. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of a community, and a community that is being transformed by love is truly a beautiful thing. We thank you for these 25 years of lives being transformed by the power of your love. And we pray that as the years go on, that we might continue to be transformed, and that your light might so radiate and reflect in us, be so profoundly pronounced within us, that those with whom we interact see your glory upon us, feel your presence when they're in our presence, and want to taste and see what it is that we do. And that this might serve as a ripple effect, reaching many, many people beyond those that we are consciously aware of, that the kingdom of heaven may be downloaded upon the earth, and that your will might be done on earth as it is. Take the lips of your servant now, God, and pass your words, that your words might be edified, clarified, and that they may speak truth to power. Thank you, God, for all of those who are blessed by this message. Thank you for the way that your love and your light and your grace and your peace and your power continues to magnify in, through, and past us. For this we give great thanks in the name and in the nature of the true Jesus the Christ. Ashe. Man. All right. So I'm going to ask you all to ponder with me as our theme. What's guiding your appetite? What's guiding your appetite? Just let that sit with you for a moment. What is it that's guiding your appetite? Psalms 34:8 says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good, that God is good." But what is it that's guiding your appetite? And I want us to be really super real with ourselves. You don't have to type it in the chat if you don't want to, but I do really want you to pose that question deep within the secret recesses of the hidden chambers of your own soul and investigate and see what is it that really is guiding your appetite. You see, a lot of us have an appetite, or we have a taste for something, and we're in touch with what it is that we have a taste for. We know what it is that we have a taste for, but we don't know what's guiding our appetite. We don't know what it is that's guiding our taste. We have a taste in people that we might be romantically interested in. And unfortunately, what we find ourselves being attracted to, what we find ourselves having a taste for, what we find ourselves having an appetite for, frequently isn't actually what's good for us, but what's familiar to us. I'll let that breathe for a second. What we find ourselves having a taste for, what we find ourselves having an appetite for, isn't necessarily what's good for us, so much as what it is that is familiar to us. In relationships, we end up in trauma-bonded relationships. Those are relationships that are based on unresolved trauma that we had experienced from unhealthy patterns in our upbringing and in our previous life experiences. And then we end up being, because we learn to become accustomed to that, that becomes familiar, and that becomes, we even think in a twisted way that becomes safe. What's familiar is what's safe. I've heard it even said that a person would rather stay in the hell that they're familiar with than a heaven that they've not previously known. Right? Now, this is insane. This is literally insane. This is crazy, right? but it is a reality of how we frequently are guided in our lives. What is it that's guiding your appetite? Even when we look at the types of things that you're interested in, the types of places that you give your energy and your attention, how much of that is based on your need for a certain degree of drama in your life? Hmm. And forgive me if I'm stepping on any toes this morning. The intent isn't to step on anybody's toes. The intent is to get us transformed, right? It's to get us in a state of awareness. That which is in the dark shall come to the light, right? And so, if we want to actually experience deliverance, if we want to experience healing, if we want to experience restoration or redemption, if we want to experience wholeness, we got to get in touch with where the brokenness exists. If we're not acknowledging the places where there's brokenness, if we're not bringing light or shedding light on the places where there's brokenness, we're not able to get to that place where we're completely dwelling and operating in the light. If you are listening into this message this morning, it's because you felt drawn to this place that we call Transforming Love Community. And on some level, you felt drawn to the TLC, or the tender loving care that's shared here. And certainly there's an abundance of that. There's a cornucopia of love at TLC. No doubt about that. It's a supportive place. It's a place that causes one to feel embraced, because that's the nature of the vibe of this place. It was part of the intention that Rev set forward and set forth in the establishment of this place called Transforming Love Community. But if you're at this place, you also, on some level, I'm imagining you came because you want to take some level of responsibility for your life. Because for you to truly be transformed, there's something that you've got to do within you. If you want to be truly transformed by the power of God's love, then that means that there's some things that have not been in alignment with the love of God, that have been in part of your life, that have to be weeded out, that have to be pruned. Jesus talked about the need for pruning. Whom God loves, God will also prune. What is pruning in horticulture, or in plants and in trees? It's cutting away the dead parts, the parts that aren't actually serving any useful purpose anymore. Now, there's a tree that is outside of that I'm looking at that's outside. And this tree isn't really operating at the level of fullness of life that it could be, because there's some dead things on that tree that need to be cut off of it. Now, it doesn't feel good to the tree to have things cut off of it. It doesn't feel good to us to have things cut out of our lives, for relationships to end, for loved ones to make their transition, for us to say goodbye to certain chapters in our life. Even if they were toxic and unhealthy, it leaves a void. It leaves an empty space. And we don't know what to do in that empty space. It leaves to some degree a sense of emptiness, or a sense of longing. There's a void that needs to be filled. And the void really can only be filled by God ultimately, but we sometimes need to stumble our way to find our way through that process. It doesn't feel good to have things cut off, but if we're really going to continue to really truly have life, and that more abundantly, then the things that aren't really serving us well have to be cut off. The things that aren't serving our highest and best good have to be let go of. We've got to release it. We've got to be willing to turn our head forward. Jesus said it this way: The one who puts their hand to the plow and looks back isn't fit for the kingdom of heaven. They're not yet in a state where they're ready to receive all the good that God has to offer. And so, as we're really taking an internal investigation of self, where we're taking an internal inventory of us and our drives, our motives, what it is that's going on within us, then it really helps us to understand that some of the things that we have a taste for don't have anything to do with what God's perfect will and God's perfect plan for us is. I think back to when I was a child growing up. When I was a child growing up, I remember there would be times where we were expected to clean our plate, where we had to eat certain things that might not have been things that we found appealing, like mixed vegetables. I didn't particularly care for that. And we'd maybe still be sitting at the table, and our parents would ask, or why haven't you finished your vegetables? And we say, well, I'm not hungry anymore. And then dessert comes out, and then all of a sudden we're hungry. and then either my mom or my dad would say, well, wait a minute, I thought that you weren't hungry anymore. Wait a minute, I thought that you were full. If you're still hungry, eat your vegetables. Say, or maybe my brother, I think he may have done the same thing, would say, I'm not hungry for that. I'm hungry for dessert. What is it that we didn't have an appetite for the thing that was good for us? We had an appetite for the thing that was sweet, for the sweet thing, the thing that we thought was sweet, the thing that spoke to our appetite. The thing that we had a taste for wasn't necessarily the thing that was actually going to give us really any significant value other than the pleasure of our taste buds, right? I've been a vegetarian for going on 22 years now. Now I say no, not 22, going on 25 years. Been since 98, February of 98, going on 25 years. Now the reality is, although I haven't eaten meat in 25 years, to say that I'm a vegetarian hasn't really actually been that accurate. I've really been more of a carbitarian. Eating pasta and pizza and stuff like that. It's really not necessarily, not everything I eat is bad. Don't get me wrong on that. But that stuff that tastes good to me, it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily always eager to have a salad or to have live, raw fruits and vegetables. Not that I don't do that. But where the real life is coming in isn't coming from some of the things that I have more of a taste for. I'm admitting this to you. And so I've recently had to make a conscious decision, a conscious, intentional decision to have the things that I know are better for me than the things that aren't. Sugar cravings. How many of us have sugar cravings? Raise your hand. Well, actually, I can't see you, so it doesn't matter if you raise your hand or not. Go ahead and say that's me. If you ever have sugar cravings, go ahead and say that's me. Okay. That's not you, boo. If you have a craving for sugar, it's not you that wants the sugar, it's the parasites that live in your body that are craving the sugar. They feed on the sugar. And because the parasites living in you are craving the sugar, you think that you want the sugar. If you want to lose your appetite for sugar, stop eating it, and then the parasites will go away, and then those cravings won't continue. What is a parasite? A parasite is something that lives off of a host or lives off of another life form, takes from that life form and gives nothing back to it. It takes from that life form and not only doesn't give anything to it, but actually causes that life form harm. Now, parasites aren't really that, they're very strategic, but they're not very smart. Cancer, for instance, is a parasite. It's a rogue cancer cells are rogue cells. Now they're within the pineal gland of your brain. There's like a central command that tells all the cells of your body what to do so that they're all working to the greater good of the body as a whole. And the reality of the matter is that in the case of, for instance, a cancer cell creates a force field around itself that it's not receiving those instructions. It doesn't care about what's serving the greater good, what's serving the good of the body as a whole. It's only concerned with its own self. And then not only that, it tries to get other cells to join the party and to fight against the greater good as well, and to only serve itself. Now, this is the reality of what we experience in life on planet Earth as human beings, because there are a lot of cancerous people that are out here that we end up interacting with, people who look for nothing other than what serves them, what benefits them, without regard to how it impacts you or how it impacts anybody else, right? And then we end up having these toxic people in our lives that serve as a cancer. They're trying to get something from us without necessarily bringing anything of any real true value to us. And then we end up even sometimes feeling guilty if we got to cut them off, or we have to say goodbye, or we have to end that relationship in the form that it's in. And sometimes people will even respond to us in a way to make us, to add to that feeling of guilt of letting them go, because they were feeding on us. Even though they weren't giving anything back to us, they were feeding on us. A lot of times there are people who will behave in predatory ways, men and women, who will behave in predatory ways. And they see you as a supply, whether it's supplying them attention or supplying them a sense of power or whatever, or just supplying them energy. They don't know how to get it from themselves or for themselves, and so they feel like they need to get it from somebody else. And so you end up with energy vampires in your life that suck the life out of you, so because that's the only way they know how to sustain their own life, is sucking it from you, and yet they don't bring anything in return that actually brings benefit to you. Why is it that we have that? Why are we attracted to those types of people? Why are we attracted to those types of people? And listen, I know for a fact, I can't see your facial expressions, but I know for a fact that this is speaking to somebody right now, because somebody right now is dealing with people in your life that are blood-sucking folks. And hopefully you're not one of the people that's the blood-sucking person, the energy vampire, if you will, right? Why do we end up getting in situations? Why are we drawn to, why are we attracted to people who seem to want to pull us down, people who want to hate on us when we're having successes in life? I remember Rev talking about a time in her life where she saw herself manifesting things very quickly, but the feedback from other people wasn't very nurturing. I just put it that way. Or wasn't very nurturing. It wasn't supportive energy. She was getting some hater energy directed her way. And a lot of times when we have a situation where there is a certain amount of light that operates in us, when there is a brightness that radiates in us, when there's a brilliance in us that shines, people sometimes can't appreciate that. And the reason that they can't appreciate that is because they're not in touch with their own light, because their own light has grown dim, or they've not learned how to really embrace the spark of God dwelling within them to allow it to grow and spread and shine. And so when they see somebody else shining, sometimes it feels to them like a threat. It creates within them a sense of inadequacy. And in that sense of inadequacy, sometimes the way that people get power is by, again, taking it from other people, by putting a wet blanket on other people's dreams. by undermining or sabotaging the confidence that you have or the enthusiasm that you have. And so what ends up happening is, in order to keep other people from feeling uncomfortable, or in order to placate where somebody else is, we end up downplaying our own light. We become spiritual contortionists, emotional contortionists, bending and yielding in all kind of ways to fit ourselves into the box that they can appreciate or receive us in. And that's based on their limitation. We don't have to make that our limitation. Let your light so shine that other folks will will be able to see that and recognize the presence of God and want to get some of that and glorify God too, right? And so we end up in these situations, and frequently it starts in childhood. Have you ever seen anything more bright than a newborn baby? More brilliant, more pure than a newborn baby? And yet, in the early parts of our life, that's when we learn to make these adjustments. That's where we learn to out of a sense of being able to feel a sense of security, where we stray from our true sense of authenticity. That's where it is that we get this sense of unworthiness. Scripture says that the sins of one generation are visited upon subsequent generations, right? And we understand at TLC that sin is really just a term that means missing the mark. That means missing the mark. And so, yes, there are ways that we miss the mark. There are ways that our parents miss the mark. There are ways that their parents miss the mark. And generation to generation, on through the process of time, within our culture, within our society, within our family, we have situations where we end up passing down baggage from one generation to the next generation. And so I was having a conversation with my mom and stepdad the other day, earlier this week. I think it was Thursday of this past week. And my mom was mentioning how my stepdad benefited from having a father who was older. His father was in his mid-50s when he was born. And he was able to benefit from the wisdom of his father, because his father had learned some things at that point in his life. He had been studying these types of things, such as are shared at TLC, and he was able to employ that wisdom in his dealing with his son and his interaction with his son. And that had a lot to do with who he raised his son to be. And yet, there are a lot of times that many of us don't have that benefit of being raised by somebody who is operating at a profound degree of wisdom. A lot of us are operating with just trying to figure out life for ourselves, while at the same time trying to raise a child or trying to raise children. And we have, though no parent wants to be a bad parent, and most aren't for the most part, but none are perfect in the process. None are perfect in the process. And so we end up passing down, whether it be based on our own insecurities, whether it be based on our own fears, whether it be based on our own sense of inadequacy, we end up passing down certain things to our children, whether it be our own sense of anxiety. You know, we end up passing down certain things in terms of the lessons that we teach. And these aren't lessons that we necessarily consciously teach, or that our parents necessarily consciously taught us. They taught us based on the best that they knew. And in the process of that, we've taken on some stuff that isn't necessarily always completely healthy. Some of it serves as dead branches that need to be cut off. And so we end up going through life having an appetite that is based on the unhealed aspects that have existed within our previous life experiences. Oftentimes, listen, folks, what I'm saying, it may sting a little bit, but it's said in love. Don't shoot the messenger. This is said in love. I shared with you about having this conversation. I also shared in that conversation, I also mentioned in that conversation with my mom and stepdad when I was visiting them this past week, that I don't envy my nieces. I don't envy my nephews either, for that matter, because of the world that they're growing up in and the way that life is unfolding, what dating will be like, what prospects of marriage would be like, because of the culture that we live in today, where there isn't actually a value in terms of the collective culture as far as really true, authentic connection, genuine love, supporting one another. We live in a world today that is becoming more and more hookup culture, where a person's body counting is an issue. And if, for those who don't know what a body count is, that's how many people that you've been physically intimate with. Okay. And so it's becoming more and more hookup culture. And then in the context of that, people don't understand how to actually really truly relate to somebody. If things are uncomfortable, they just ghost somebody rather than dealing with the process of moving in different directions in a healthy way. That creates a sense of inadequacy, a sense of unworthiness, a sense of a whole lot of stuff. But people end up being attracted to that based on the things that are already going on inside of them, in whatever sense of unworthiness, even if it's based on being different and not getting validation from other people, not getting affirmed from other people, and thinking that something is wrong with one as a result. We live in a world, unfortunately, particularly in the African American community, but certainly not just the African American community, where there are a lot of single mothers. And kudos to you who are attempting to do your best to be both parents. One of the unfortunate things is, on a lot of occasions, single mothers make surrogate husbands of their sons. It's never intentional, but it is a fact of reality that they'll sometimes use their son as a confidant, will sometimes lean on their son in a certain way that one would typically lean on a husband. And then what ends up happening is it ends up creating something toxic within the son, where the son will then end up having challenges in relationships. Not knowing why he chooses a certain type of person. Not knowing why. And in many cases, depending on what it is that he saw, what it is that he experienced, and to a degree his own temperament, he may either become a player or become a simp. Okay? A player is a predator, a simp is a prey, essentially. Neither one are healthy places. Neither one advance the good of humanity. Neither one are going to feel good to that young man, and neither one are going to be situations that you're going to be happy to see your son in. Many fathers who aren't there for their daughters, who've not been there for their daughters, Their daughters subconsciously end up seeking a father figure, seeking somebody who will be there in the way that their father wasn't, seeking to fill the void that was left by the empty space that their father should have been. And then will typically feel attracted to the person who comes across as strong, the person who they believe comes across as confident, who they believe comes across as secure, to the person who in reality is more of a womanizer. The person who in reality is more controlling. And the way that they're covering up their own insecurities is by having power over another person, by having power over a woman. Now, that's not going to seem obvious at first, but then it's hard to tell, why do I keep ending up with people who keep hurting me? For people who are not emotionally available? Why do I keep finding myself, why do I have some loved one or friend, family might want to introduce you to somebody? Nice person, kind-hearted person, solid person, maybe clean-cut person. Oh, that's not my type. That's not what I have a taste for. They don't really speak to my appetite. But do you know what's guiding your appetite? Oftentimes in relationships, we're not attracted to what's actually healthy for us. We're not attracted necessarily to what's actually compatible for us. We're attracted to what's familiar for us, what's familiar to us. And frequently and listen, it can be very scary to go a route different than where you've been before, to travel down a road different than the road you've traveled down before. It can feel scary. It can seem like darkness, whereas the actual darkness that you dwelled in can seem like light. You've been familiar with that. You've been in touch with that. You've been aware of that. But in the midst of that, even though you might complain about it, and how many of you ask yourself this question: do you really want to be happy? Or do you want to complain about, or do you prefer to complain about not being happy? Do you want to be happy, or do you want to be happy? There's a difference. Now, again, I want us to all take a deep internal investigation of ourselves and really look at that. Really look at that. The Apostle Paul in the seventh chapter of Romans, starting in verse 15, said, "I do not understand what I do." I don't get where this appetite that I've got is coming from. For what the things that I want to do, I don't end up doing. And I end up doing the things that I don't want to do. Because there's this law of my members that's at war against the law of my mind. And so it's not the spirit in me that's doing the stuff. It's the sin in me. It's the brokenness in me. It's the part in me that's missing the mark. It's the part of me that hasn't quite gotten it yet, that's actually ruling my appetite and therefore ruling my choices and actions. Right? This is some serious stuff that we're dealing with here. This is some serious stuff. Jesus met a woman at the well, and he was there. She was there drawing water. He said, "Draw me some water too." He mentioned, you're pulling up this water, but listen, I got a water that if you drink this water that I offer you, you'll never thirst again. She didn't understand. She knew that her ancestors had drawn from that well. She even spoke to that. And a lot of times the things that we're drawing from, mm, the things that we're drawing from is the wellspring of our ancestral experiences. And those things that have been passed down to us, not necessarily always healthy, but that we've somehow managed to pick up anyway. So what is the solution to this? In Psalms 37 and verse 4, it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and God will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself in God, and God will determine your appetite. Mm. Listen, I know this isn't one of those feel-good messages today. I get that. I get that. Hopefully, if you're being real with yourself, there've been a couple of times where you might have said ow a little bit. And the point isn't to bring you pain. The point is to bring you out of your pain. The pain that you may not even understand why you continually repeat, why you find yourself continually going through. Right? And so I'm going to ask all of us, and we're drawing towards our close, but as we begin to close, I'm going to ask all of us to take some time and get quiet within ourselves. To take some time and get quiet within ourselves and to look at the different areas in our life that aren't showing up the way that we'd like them to. You know, when you're used to eating unhealthy foods and you've got a diagnosis, whether it's cancer or diabetes, or whatever the case might be, that's saying that you really need to change the way that you're eating. The healthy stuff doesn't taste good to you. And it's hard to change your appetite from the stuff that was bad from you. It's not until you start getting more healthy that the stuff that is healthy for you is attractive to you. It tastes good to you. That you begin to develop an appetite for what's healthy. Like attracts like. And so I want us to all look at the different areas, explore the different areas in your life where there might be some toxicity. Maybe there's some emotional toxicity. Maybe you have a penchant for developing relationships with toxic people. They could even be with family members. You might have a difficult time making healthy food choices, making healthy television viewing choices. And if you can take the time to bring those concerns into the presence of God, invite the presence of God into the places of your pain, invite the grace and the love of God into the places of your concern. Invite the grace and the love of God into the places of your insecurities, of your fears, of your doubts. Psalm 37:5 says, commit your way to the Lord. If you make that real decision to really love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, you realize that you can only do that if you're also willing to love yourself. We only run to God to the degree that we love ourselves. We only submit ourselves to God to the degree that we love ourselves. We only are committed to God to the degree that we love ourselves. Everything else is our lower nature being stuck somewhere in our own lower nature. But as we ride out and dwell in what my brother Spencer Murray calls ascension intention. We decide that we're going to do whatever it takes to be all that God calls us to be. That we're going to do whatever it takes to rise and be the fullness of who we were created and destined to be. That we're going to do whatever it takes to align ourselves and our lives with the perfect will of God. And there might be some things in your life that you might need to say goodbye to. There might be some behaviors in your life that you might need to let go of. There might be some choices that you might need to make that might be difficult decisions. There might be some things that you might need to do that are new to you, and in the newness, it may feel scary, it may feel unsafe, it may feel threatening to do that which is unfamiliar to you, but which is actually much more healthy. And what I want to say to you, beloved, is that everything that you've ever wanted is one step outside of your comfort zone. Everything that you've ever wanted is a step away from what your previous realm of comfortability or familiarity has been. And as you continue to move in the direction of that which serves your highest and best good, as you continue to move in alignment with the goodness and the grace and the love of God, you begin to see some of those other things just naturally falling away. There's some things that even as a person who's been on this journey for a long time, even as a person who's been in ministry since 1996, there have been things that were still strongholds in my life that I still had difficulty dealing with until I got certain things healed within me. And there are many things that I just no longer have a taste for. There are many things I just no longer have a taste for. I used to be addicted to Hostess honey buns. When I was in high school, we'd eat them for breakfast and lunch. There was a 3-week period in college where I was just a broke college student, and I could get 3 honey buns. They weren't even the Hostess brand, from a local gas station right off the campus, where I could get 3 honey buns for $1.07. And for 3 weeks, my entire diet consisted of 3 honey buns. 3 honey buns a day, right? You couldn't pay me to eat a honey bun today. You couldn't pay me to eat a honey bun today. That's a little simple thing, but there are certain other things that I just used to be attracted to, used to have an interest in, that I'm just not interested in anymore. And yet, like you, there's still certain things that I'm seeking to bring God to rectify within me too, and that I'm still looking to get right within me as well. And listen, beloved, if I can do it, you can do it. What one person can do, another person can do. And in this place that is transforming love community, we're here as a community of love. We're here as a community of support where we can transform together. This is a safe space. This is a safe space that Reverend Shahir has established here at Transforming Love Community, where you can come and maybe not always get somebody to co-sign your dysfunction, but you can get somebody to hold you accountable. And even in holding you accountable, love on you at the same time. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Scripture tells us that. And so if there was anything that was said today that hurt your feelings, know that it was in love. I can just tell you all the good feeling stuff that you want to hear, but if that's not going to help you grow, then it's not serving you. God, we thank you for this time that we've had here together today. We've had some things that have been driving and guiding our appetite that we haven't really completely understood because they've been deeply embedded within our subconscious, things that we're not consciously aware of. They're in the subconscious that are guiding our choices, our decisions, our behaviors, and some of those have been unhealthy to us, God. God, we haven't always made choices that have been the most loving things towards us, let alone other people, but not even loving towards us. Give us the strength to forgive ourselves for those poor decisions that we made out of our brokenness. Help us to have compassion towards ourselves. Have compassion to those who raised us, those who reared us, those who hurt us. And yet, God, let us hold ourselves accountable also, regardless of who hurt us in the past, regardless of what shortcomings those who reared us may have had, regardless of what shortcomings those who may have broken our hearts may have had. Give us the strength to take responsibility to go forward from here. Let us delight ourselves in you. And though there may be certain areas in our lives, God, where how you will want to show up in our lives is unfamiliar, areas where we haven't necessarily developed a taste or developed an appetite for that, God, help us to make the smooth transition. Free us from the physical, psychological, mental, emotional, and spiritual parasites, relational parasites that have been feeding off of us and that have been guiding us to believe that we wanted something, that it wasn't us that wanted that for ourselves, but there was unhealthy things dwelling within us, feeding off of us. Clear those things from us. And let us yearn for, thirst for, hunger for those things that are wholly and completely of you. And those things which are in alignment with your perfect will for our lives. Even in the moments where it may feel scary, God, give us the courage. Guide our eyes, guide our vision, clear the cobwebs from our consciousness, and allow us to see things not as we want to see them, but as they are. To see ourselves moving in the direction of at one mint with you. And God, when it is all said and done, and all the toxic, unhealthy stuff is falling by the wayside, and we're truly living our best selves, God, may we give you the glory and the honor. And even while we're in the process of getting there, let us speak those things that aren't yet the case as though they actually were. And may we give you glory and honor and praise, even as we are growing through. Because as we set our eyes on you, we rise. As we set our eyes on you, our vision is clarified. As we set our eyes on you, to the point where you become all that we see. And when we get to the point where you are all we see, it is then that we are dwelling in that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction, that realm of ever expanding. We're dwelling in that space where we have come to recognize that the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus said, is within. For this, we give great thanks. We honor you, and we receive the good that you have for us in the name and the nature of Yeshua HaMashiach. Ashe. Yeah. God bless you, family. And your friend, Donna, Ronnie Hall, my mama, Joanna, and your sister, Alicia, Sonia, Reverend Tia, J Love, Dr. Valanda, Rhonda Jackson, Lorraine, Reverend Bonnie, Reverend Shahira. God bless us all. God bless us all. We want you to remember TLC. You know, we talk about feeding upon having an appetite for that which is serving our highest and best good. As we're looking to develop a healthy appetite and an appetite for that which is healthy. Let us realize the value and the importance of sowing what it is that we want to grow. TLC is a place where you feel like you're being fed, something that is nourishing your soul, then sow into this fertile soil. You can do that via Givelify, via PayPal. You can find both of those on the transforminglovecommunity.com website. Or you can go to CashApp, $TLC Heals 01. You've experienced some healing in connection with TLC. Sow into this place. Sow into the place that actually results in fruit that nourishes you, and helps you to grow and be vibrant in your life. God bless you. Even as you're getting ready to sow your seed, divine love in and through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. May this be the blessing that you place upon your altar and upon you. And let us know